This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is the List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle.
You are listening to List Building Lifestyle with the chief list builder himself, Mr. Igor Kheifets. What is up, my man?
Doing well, Jonathan. Nurturing a bit of a cold, so my voice is deeper and smoother than usual. I'm sure that's about to change in a few days, but doing pretty darn well. Extremely productive, pumped up about, doing this episode because we got some important stuff to talk about.
No kidding. And I hear that you're going to be making a trip to the U.S. soon, probably before this thing airs. But are you going to be visiting any of your list building lifestyle fans out there in the U.S.?
Well, I've actually tried to keep it a secret, but thank you so much for letting the world know. And actually, I'm going to be meeting with a few people for sure, some of my VIP club members as well. And, it's really exciting to be visiting a foreign country, knowing that you got people out there who you touched, like whose lives you touched, which is kind of cool. And I first experienced it back in 2014 when I traveled to Orlando for the JV Zoo event, where for the first time ever, I met about a good dozen people who went full-time online thanks to going through my coaching program.
Wow.
Like I could actually put voices to faces, and I could, hug them and shake their hands and be like, actually feel the energy to find out what it really means when somebody is grateful for you touching their life in that way. And again, I spoke about this before. It's extremely rewarding. It's addictive. And, that's the kind of feeling that I strive for whenever we sit down to do the podcast, because the podcast is too a way for us to touch lives, right? And hopefully a more productive way, because we're able to touch many lives all at the same time. In fact, I was just speaking to a client earlier today, a VIP club member who's a bit stuck in his business. He's an older gentleman. I think he's closing on 60 years old, and he's been struggling lately to make sales. He's really not able to make any progress. And so I gave him actually one of the unaired episodes, which we haven't published yet, with a very what's the word I'm looking for? I guess with an amazing person, just somebody who's just, I respect and admire a lot. And the advice shared on that episode kind of opened his eyes to all the mistakes he was making and gave him hope and inspired him to start taking action in a whole new direction, which he was ignoring up until now. And, the email he wrote back was just amazing. I mean, I've seen the guy change his vibe from total desperation and anxiety and fear to hope, determination, and confidence. So,
Wow.
It is just amazing what a 20-minute episode can do for somebody.
Dude, that's like the best endorsement for podcasting ever. So what do you have in store for us today, Igor?
Well, Jonathan, today I wanna talk a little bit about the brain, the part of the body which is often ignored, but which is the primary, I guess, element in the decision-making process. And the orthodox school of thinking tells us we must be logical and rational in our marketing approach, that we must build an airtight logical case to move the prospect to action. But anyone who's been in a real-world belly-to-belly selling environment knows that prospects are not rational. Logic does not appeal to them. In fact, the only time they use logic is to rationalize the emotional decision they already made. And before I'll give an example of how that works, here's why this happens. You see, we got two brains. We don't have one brain, we have two. One brain is the emotional brain. It's the, primal, if you will. It's the brain we used when we were like monkeys. And it's mostly emotional. Fear, lust, and all these other desires, which aren't logical or rational, they all reside in that part of the brain. The other side of the brain is logical. It's the one, we use to solve math problems and puzzles and stuff like that. So people think that you can actually be like somewhat rational and logical and just use this other part of the brain, which allows you to make these sound, wise decisions. But the reality is that the decision is always made in the irrational, emotional side of the brain, and then it is transferred to the logical side to be justified. So there is no decision that you ever make that is not emotional first, and then it is being justified by your logical side. And I'll give you a great example out of my own life. A couple of weeks ago, my dad, okay, his car broke down, and his car was okay. It was an Opel. I'm not sure if you guys know what an Opel is. I mean, I haven't seen an Opel in America, but anyone who lives in UK knows this by the name of Vauxhall. So it's an Australian vehicle, I think, by origin, but Opel is the German version of the same thing. And so it broke down. Basically, it still goes, but not well. And so my dad, instead of fixing the car, which he tried for a little while, I know after just one attempt of fixing the car and it did not working, instead of going to another car shop or garage or maybe Googling the solution, he decides to buy a new car. Why? Well, because, if that car broke down, that means I got to buy a new car. So in and of itself, it's an emotional decision. It's obvious, right? But then there's another level, another dimension to this whole thing. You see, my dad can't afford a brand new car. And it's as clear as day to both him and me. He does not have the money to buy a new car. So he comes to me and he's asking me to give him the money to buy the new car. And I say, well, no, Dad. I mean, we've been over this. I've been trying to help you, to help you become more educated financially, something that you failed to do your entire life. And so, no, buying a new car is not an option for you. He says, well, either you can give me the money, or you can loan the money from the bank. I'm like, if you feel like loaning the money and, getting more debt going on, then be my guest. And the funny part is that he did.
Wow.
Now, calculating the whole thing, it's not like he just jumped into it. He actually calculated and he says, well, I think I'll be able to handle it. And on paper, it sounds like he can. But then I say, okay, Dad, well, you calculated the cost of the car. But now you got the insurance and all these other things, plus when it breaks down, and it will, you have to pay, etc. So he chooses not to listen to me, okay, not to listen to me and buy an expensive car. A car which is just on the verge of what the bank would allow him to do. In other words, if the bank would agree to give him anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000, then he would take the $20,000. He wouldn't go for the 10, he would go for the max. So he takes the 20, he buys the car, and the next day, when he needs to install an insurance thing, and then he needs to install another thing which tracks, it's like a chip in the car which tracks its location. So you got to put one of those in. So all in all, he realizes very fast that he's he's in over his head. So the next day he comes to me and he's asking me for money. He says, son, I need you to chip in because I can't handle it. I won't be able to afford it. And here's the thing. Why would you do it knowing up front that you will not be able to afford it? Why would you go for a loan? Why would you take out a loan on the car without having any extra source of income? Why would you do something so stupid and be so emotional and use like these tiny little circumstances to justify your decision? Like, oh, my old car broke down, so instead of fixing it and spending $200, I'll go and I'll buy a new car for $20,000. Like, that is not logic. That is not rationalizing anything. That is pure emotion and childish behavior, what we'd call childish, I guess, in our society. So that's a great example of how somebody, completely rational person, I mean, my dad is actually very smart. He's an engineer by trade. How smart people go ahead and make emotional decisions, and they are not even aware of that, because that's just how the brain works, man. And so that is exactly why I want to talk about the two brains today, because most people, what they do is they try to appeal to the logic and to the rational part of the brain when they talk to their prospects. And they use the logic and the rationale when they operate their business as well. I don't see them focusing on any emotional stuff in their pitches, in their marketing, in their emails. Nowhere. It's mostly about, oh, I got this amazing thing. Okay, so what? What does this amazing thing do for me? How does it help me achieve my goals? How does it appeal to my greed? How does it appeal to the sexual instinct in me? Like, how does it appeal to all the emotional side, to the fears, to the insecurities? Where's all that? I don't see enough marketing in that department, Jonathan, and it just pisses me off.
That's something that I struggle with because I'm a sociopath and I have no empathy. I'm just kidding, but I do have some weak empathy, and sometimes it's hard for me to get into that emotional place. And I notice that anytime I'm making a pitch, it takes a lot of energy to get to the emotional place. So that's my reason for not doing it. But what do you think other people's reasons are for not going to the emotional side of things?
Well, I guess if you try to appeal to the negative emotions, and we spoke about this, I think we have an episode titled "How to Make Them Cry and Take Their Money," which it is related to what we're discussing today. You kind of feel weird and awkward, and sometimes feel like an asshole when you try to appeal to the emotional side of what the person is trying to purchase. And the other element, which is as equally as bad, I think, is the lack of understanding that people are making emotional decisions. Because most people who try to market, having no marketing experience or no marketing knowledge, having invested very little time or effort into advancing their marketing skill set, they follow this orthodox school of thinking that tells them, hey, appeal to the logic. Because the product is a no brainer, the offer is a no brainer. Anyone with a brain will see the value in this. Well, the good news is, yeah, sure. I mean, it's great that you got a product that delivers value. But the bad news is, it's not enough to push people into action because you're fighting a highly emotional animal on the other side. So you're not speaking the same language when you're trying to appeal to the logical.
How do you tap into that emotional side, Igor?
Dude, I don't know. You just gotta make an effort, I guess. I mean, how do you ride a bike? You just get on the bike and start pedaling, you fall a couple of times, and then you kind of start riding. And so, if you're a human being, you're no stranger to emotions. And just try to understand what's going on in that person's world. Try to understand, why are they here? Why are they trying to buy this business opportunity? Are they doing it because they're bored? Are they doing it because they need an adventure in their life? Are they doing it because their wife got fired and they need a second stream of income? Are they doing it because they hate their boss, so they need something to get out? Are they doing it because they feel miserable waking up in the morning and commuting for 40 minutes each way? Are they doing it because they realize that there is no prospect of growth in their current workplace, and the idea that they'll spend another 10 years making the exact same amount of money makes them sick? I mean, it's just normal people stuff, right? It's just the kind of stuff that people discuss over a cup of coffee or drink in a bar. So
All
just
right.
being open.
I got to push you a little bit more because you're saying it and you're pretending that this is just normal stuff, but I know better, a marketer. So I know that you've spent a lot of time talking to your customers to get that, because there's no way that you just came up with those ideas. Or am I wrong?
This is why I hate doing these calls with you, man. You know all my secrets. Yes, I admit. Okay, I spend a lot of time connecting with my audience. A lot. In fact, I'm sure some people have kind of arrived at this conclusion at some point, but I often scan my own support desk for the very same reason. I want to stay. I want to be in the know with what's going on in my marketplace. I want to understand the motivations. I want to understand the fears. I want to understand the insecurities. I want to understand the drive, the emotional drive that my customers have when it comes to building an online business. Now, from reading and studying the sales letters and the sales pitches that people put out there, and most of these pitches, of course, are crap. I mean, they're not working, trust me. You can get the wrong idea. You can get the idea that it's all about the money. You can get the idea that it's all about the amazing new software or the amazing new app, right? But it's not. It's really not. If you just spend 30 minutes, 30 minutes a week connecting with people within your marketplace who are just like you, who are trying to make money, just have a conversation. And the purpose of that conversation would be to learn as much as possible about what drives the person sitting in front of you. Ask them a few questions, they'll open up like a book, and you'll discover a whole new world. You'll see things that no sales pitch or sales video ever talks about. And trust me, 99% of what I'm going to tell you is not going to be about traveling the world and living, a great lifestyle. It's going to be about these mundane, shitty problems, this routine that people are stuck in. That is what drives them, for the most part, to start these online businesses. That's what they want to get out of.
Now I'm going to push a little bit further because you have a giant list of customers. What about the list builders out there who are just starting out and don't have customers? How can they get into these conversations or do this kind of reconnaissance that you're talking about?
Oh, that's easy, man. You can do forums. Just get on the forum, start a thread, get people sharing. People love talking about their problems. There's nothing easier, really, than to get somebody talking about their problems. Incidentally, of course, that also makes them trust you more. That's how the brain works. So get on the forum, start a thread, share why you started this business, and then ask others to share. And reciprocity will kick in, and you'll see people giving, their entire stories. Now, of course, you got to be ready to invest a lot of time into reading these because often they'll give you more details than you want to know. But what you'll discover will be fascinating, will be eye-opening. You will no longer struggle to come up with things to write emails about because you'll know exactly what that inner world of your target prospect looks like. If you don't want to go on the forums, talk to your teammates. If you're in the business opportunity, you're probably a part of some sort of Facebook group or a mastermind or something. Just connect with people one-on-one, send them a private message and ask them if they want to get in a quick chat. Most people will be happy because they don't have anyone in their life that they can talk to about these problems. They can't talk about this with their partner because the partner doesn't get them. They can't talk about this with their parents because their parents think they're just wasting their time. They cannot talk about this with their siblings because their siblings think they're crazy. So all they can hope for is for someone like you, who's a peer, who's a friend, to reach out and say, hey, I got a few minutes, and if you'd like to share what's on your mind, I'm ready to listen.
Nice. Hopefully I didn't take you too far off track, but anything else as we're coming to the close of this one?
Yeah. If all you do, if there's only one thing you take away from this episode, is that I want you to stop paying so much attention to the way things are supposed to be and to the way people are supposed to behave, because it's never like that. For the most part, people behave in a very irrational and illogical way, and that is what I want you to accept. Now, once you accept that, you'll be able to communicate with your prospects the way they're supposed to be communicated, not the way you want to communicate with them. And that will change your game, it will change your results, and it might as well change your entire life.
Nice. So what do you have coming up for the list builders next time, Igor?
Next time, I got Diane Hockman. I'm hosting her on the show, and she's going to share the 7 biblical mindset hacks which all millionaires swear by. Okay, these are these are very specific ways of thinking about your business and your life, which govern the way millionaires behave. Okay, and I'm talking about self-made millionaires, not millionaires that were born into money. I'm talking about millionaires that made their wealth starting from scratch, just like us.
Wow. Now that sounds fascinating. Looking forward to it. So that is a wrap for another list building lifestyle. Thank you, Igor. Thank you, list builders. We will be back in your earbuds next time.
Thank you for listening to the List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.